And the sympathetic and the parasympathetic system coexist in us. The thing, though, is in the modern world, what we find is that for most people, the sympathetic system is working overtime. Stress levels, anxiety levels today are at an all-time high, at least since we started measuring reliably. And what most of us need more of is the parasympathetic system to kick in. In other words, to calm us down, to bring us back to a more calm and relaxed state. And it's through the breath that we can introduce the parasympathetic system into the equation. I want to talk about one kind of breath today, and we'll talk about it a lot more. We'll talk about it throughout the future webinars. But the one type of breath that I want to talk about is what has been called coherent breathing. Coherent breathing is breathing between 5 and 6 breaths a minute. And that has been shown for most people. And again, this is research, but we need to also do me-search here, right? Between 5 and 6 breaths a minute of equal in and equal out, equal inhale and equal exhale, has been shown to be the optimal amount of breathing to lead us to a state of coherence, to lead us to a state of balance. And the way the coherent breath works is very simple. Ideally, breathe in and out through your nose, because nose breathing has also been shown to be a lot healthier than mouth breathing. Ideally through your nose, unless your nose is stuffed, of course, in which case we have a secondary system where we can breathe through our mouth. So breathing in through your nose, 5 to 6 seconds in. If you can, bring it all the way down to your belly, and 5 to 6 seconds out. Very simple. What I do, I have sort of like a metronome, which is, you just go on YouTube and you type coherent breathing, and they'll time it for you, where there is a bell every 5 or 6 seconds. And every time you hear the bell, it's time to change. If you inhale, you begin to exhale. If you exhale, you begin to inhale. Now, if it's 5.5 seconds or 6.3 seconds, it doesn't matter. So you don't need to use that metronome, but you can count in your head. If 5 to 6 seconds in and 5 to 6 seconds out is too much for you at this stage, for whatever reason, whether because you worked out earlier or because your lungs cannot take in so much air yet, that's fine. Do whatever is comfortable, convenient for you. So what I want to do now is, for just 2 minutes, do some coherent breathing, which I will lead. And we'll do some later as well, but I urge you to then go home and explore. Because it is quite remarkable when you look at the data on what the breath can do for us. It's quite remarkable that it's so accessible. It's free. It's quite literally under our noses. We can do it at any moment in our lives. When we're listening to a lecture, when we are at a meeting in the workplace, when we wake up in the morning, or before we go to bed. Now, I'm talking about coherent breathing. There are many other types of breathing, because we also know that when we breathe in, we stimulate the sympathetic system. When we breathe out, we stimulate the parasympathetic system. And remember, the sympathetic system, energy. The parasympathetic system, calm. Accelerator, brake. In other words, if you use the parasympathetic system, if you trigger the parasympathetic more by breathing out more, you lower levels of anxiety. In other words, before a lecture, when I'm standing there and feeling anxiety before I come here, what I do is stimulate the parasympathetic system more so. How? 6 in, 12 out. Or it can be 4 in and 8 out. Or 4 in and 10 out. But longer exhales. Because remember, exhale, parasympathetic, calm. Longer exhales than inhales. If I'm feeling tired, my energy levels are low, then I do the opposite. Longer inhales and shorter exhales. Or another way of energizing is taking fast breaths. In yoga and pranayama, they're called the Bhastrika breath, which we'll also do later on. So let's do just a couple of minutes before we begin off coherent breathing. So sit comfortably in your chairs, ideally 2 feet on the floor. I don't always reach, it doesn't matter, they can be in the air. And if you can, straighten your back. Remember how important posture is for how we feel about ourselves, about the world. Just be comfortable, whatever is comfortable for you. And if you feel comfortable, close your eyes. And shift your attention to your breathing. The air coming in through your nose, and if you can, out through your nose. And you can follow my cues, or you can just breathe as is comfortable for you. Breathe out. And now, through your nose, breathe in. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and out. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and in. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and out. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and in your own pace, and out when you're ready. Just continue doing it for another minute. If your mind wanders, bring it back to the breath, going in and out. Coherent breathing. Now just breathe in whatever way, pace is comfortable for you. Don't worry about the length of the inhale or exhale. Just slow, gentle, quiet inhalation, followed by slow, gentle, quiet exhalation. And with the next exhalation, open your eyes, especially if you're asleep. You know, many of the tools, techniques that we talk about throughout the program, whether it's the lectures or the home play or the webinars, are very simple to implement. Again, they're accessible, they're there. However, the challenge is not understanding them, the challenge is not to know them. The challenge is to implement them consistently. Day in and day out. And for that, we can have a list to remind us. We can wear a bracelet that says on it, breathe or be present. We can have it on our smartphone. You know, one of the great benefits of technology. Perfect for reminders. But we need those reminders. Or else, you know, you do it now, maybe you'll do it tonight. Maybe even on Monday when you go back to your homes. But then can you do it for the next month and 20 years? If it helps, if it works, if it's beneficial. And that depends on creating reminders in our environment. Reminders that lead to repetition, that lead to rituals, the 3 R's of change. And speaking of change, about a year ago, I was contacted by a large school district. I cannot say where it is exactly from because I did sign an NDA, at least at this point. It's not public knowledge, but a large school district outside of the US contacted me and asked me to help them design a program for their schools that will introduce the science of well-being. Now this matters, and this is important. Professor Seligman, whom we spoke about a lot yesterday, when he addresses teachers and parents, always begins with 2 questions. The first question that he asks them is, what would you most like for your children? And what do parents mostly like for their children? And they tell him, and he makes a list, and they say, I want my children to be happy, to have good relationships, to be resilient, to experience joy, to be able to overcome hardships and difficulties. And he makes this list, and then he says, and now we have question number 2. And question number 2 is, what do children learn in school? And he makes a second list. Reading, writing, math, history, biology, geography. And there is rarely an overlap between the 2 lists. Now, it's not that the second list is unimportant. Of course it's important for children to learn geography and history and biology. But why are schools almost entirely ignoring the first list? Especially today, when we have a science of happiness. So 50 years ago, I could understand why schools would be reluctant to introduce well-being. Too much self-help, too much new age, we can't really justify it. But today, we know how to shift the needle. We know how to help students become happier. And we know what the effects of that are for their physical health, for their performance in school. We know what it takes to increase levels of resilience. We know what a difference introducing a breath practice can make. which by the way is also a mindfulness practice, or more physical exercise in school, or explaining to them the nature of relationships and conflict, and the permission to be human. We know how important it is for an 8-year-old to understand that, as it is for an 88-year-old. And we're not doing that. Very few schools are doing that. And if we want to get to that tipping point that Arlene was talking about yesterday, we need to do more of it. So when I got that call from that large school district, needless to say, I was delighted. And I very quickly realized that this is something that I cannot just do on my own or copy-paste from other things that I have done. This will take a lot of work, and I need experts to help me. And that's when I called Judy. And and Judy and I had worked on another project before, and I knew just what she was capable of. And I called her up, and I called up another fellow journeyer, Ashley Michael. And I must say, working with Judy and Ashley has been an amazing experience. I was blown away by their professionalism, by their dedication, their wisdom. And we're still in the midst of it, but nearing the end of the project. And I thought that it would be wonderful if Judy could share with us what we have done over the past, how long has it been, Judy? 6 months?
Can you hear me okay? Great. So we're going to go to page 3 because you covered the first 2. So just to reiterate something that Tal said, the school district that reached out to us, they wanted a well-being framework that was going to be systematic, comprehensive, and coordinated. They were already doing some things, but not in any coordinated, systematic way. So the first thing that we did is we did a bunch of research, which is one of my background, which is why Tal contacted me. And we did a number of focus groups with schools, and we talked to principals, we talked to vice principals. This project was for kindergarten through 12th grade. So we talked to teachers at different levels as well, because it's different at different perspectives. And of course, the school counselors that dealt with well-being the most. We also did surveys with students and parents as well as the staff, because looking at it all around and what did the parents want, and also we wanted the students' perspective as well. So we did that. And then a ton of secondary research where went online, and there's an amazing amount of free available research that organizations, that schools have done. And I was just blown away by how much valuable information we learned about what other schools had done, what had worked, what hadn't worked, what challenges they had. So it gave us a lot of learning of what to do as well as what not to do. And these are 6 of our key findings from all the research that we did. One is that this school district, and probably a lot of school districts, have a lot of appreciation for well-being practices, and especially after COVID, it became a much bigger emphasis on well-being, but a lot of that well-being was on just the emotional piece of it, and not all the different Spire elements. We also found that within the school district, there was quite a wide variation in terms of what schools were actually doing. Some were kind of doing the minimum, and some were winning awards and doing amazing things, like we were so impressed with what they were doing. All the schools consistently were concerned about, they kept on saying, don't be overly prescriptive. Don't tell us exactly what to do, when, how. Give us some freedom, give us flexibility, give us the framework, but then give us the freedom to implement it, because we know our students best, we know our school system the best way. And then the fourth of this no-brainer, the importance of training the teachers. So the teachers, like one of the things we learned from the research was that if you create a framework or any program, but you don't give the teachers the proper training and support, it's going to fail. And as Tal said, we wanted to create something that would last for a long time, not just be a one-year thing or a two-year thing. We wanted people to embrace it. In this particular place that we're working with, very diverse student body. So they were really reiterating the fact that people are coming from different cultures, different backgrounds, different socioeconomic status, that it had to work for all of the above. And of course that it's not just about the students in school, it's what happens with them at home. So the parents, and for some of these in the wealthier areas, it was also the nannies and the housekeepers were a very important part of it as well.
And if I can interject,
Yeah.
just to highlight two of these points. So these findings, again, defined what we ended up doing after. But there was a wide variation in what schools were doing. And this variation is important because as in research, it's from the variation that you learn interesting things. Because if everything was homogeneous, if everything was the same, that wouldn't be interesting, you wouldn't learn much, but it's because things are different. And I want to highlight a very basic and elemental aspect of the study of happiness, which is focusing on those exceptional activities, focusing on those exceptional situations, focusing on those exceptional outliers. So we focused on those schools that already had great programs in place or even one great intervention in place. And we said, okay, what can we learn from it and how can we apply it to other schools? And the same applies on the individual level. I talked about this yesterday, about what is unique about positive psychology. You focus on what works. So let's say you want to improve your relationship. Yeah, of course you should talk about why you fight and why you disagree and how can you learn from your worst moments. At the same time, and don't forget to learn from your best moments when things are going well. Again, you don't learn about what makes for great marriages by studying divorce. Not that studying divorce is unimportant, of course it is. But you don't learn about what makes for great marriages by studying divorce. You don't learn about what it takes to be a great athlete by studying sedentary people. You learn by studying great athletes. And it's the same with schools. Yeah, of course, study problematic schools, areas, programs. And this is what Judy did so masterfully, find those programs that work best, those interventions that really make a difference in the school. And then ask, how can you spread that? How can you make it more pervasive? And finally, I want to go to the sixth point. When you bring about change, it's important to look at the system. Remember the second principle that we talk about. Everything is interconnected. It's a system. If you want to study what will help the child, you cannot just study a child. Yeah, you need to study a child, and you need to study the child's brain and body and mind, and you need to study the child's environment, which means the classroom, the teachers, the school, the culture that they're in, their parents. And you need to introduce a systematic rather than a symptomatic approach to change. So these principles that we talk about, yeah, we present them in theory, but they have real implications for how we do things, how we do research, and more importantly, how we practice, how we implement that research.
Right, and we kept a really comprehensive list of every activity that we thought was a good idea that was suggested. From the research, we had a list of different things and how they fit within each of the Spire elements so that we could use them later on in the project. So after doing all the research, we felt there were certain opportunity areas. So one was implementing a more balanced and complete well-being offering, and that's what I alluded to earlier, that schools kind of had more of a focus on the emotional part of Spire, and that's what, because of COVID, was a big emphasis, but there was a real opportunity to do a more balanced and get all the five Spire elements involved. And it's the idea of small as well as larger changes. So again, we wanted to make it as easy as possible for the schools to do as much as possible. So simple things like, we were talking about taking some deep breaths when you're stressed, doing some stretching after an hour of sitting in classrooms, like kids sit in classrooms way too much, as well as creating well-being habits. And the way we wanted this to last more than a year or two, we wanted to help them create habits that would stick, that kids would have for their whole lives, that the school would have as part of their culture. And again, we wanted something that worked across all ages from kindergarten to 12th grade, as well as all cultures. And one of the things that was most fascinating for me was this wasn't a US school district, so learning about the different culture and how it was the same and different from what I was used to, and being sensitive to that. So
and just to say something about that last point. Remember, when we talk about happiness and understanding happiness, we look at 3 levels. The first level is the research, and that is the universal research, which means that people everywhere at all time needed a sense of meaning and purpose in their lives. People, all places, all times, need to be physically active if they're concerned with their whole being. People everywhere, always, need relationships. That's universal. Then, of course, we have the cultural. And the cultural, there are differences between people living in Mexico and people living just north from here, or people living, east or west from here. There are cultural differences that are real and that are important to study. And then there are, of course, individual differences. When 2 people are raised, even in the same household, they're different. They have different things that provide them with a sense of meaning and purpose. The kind of relationships that they want and thrive on are different. So you need to study the universal, the cultural, and for that we have research. And of course, as we emphasize time and time again, you also need to study the individual, for which we have me-search. And when we looked at this project, again, what guided us was this approach. Yeah, we have the universal, the Spire elements are by and large universal. But then we were working with a different culture. Our experience is from a different culture. We had to study them. That's why we had to do all the research and to talk to those schools and to draw on research that was done by psychologists and sociologists in that country. And then we emphasize to the teachers that each student is different, and we need to take that into consideration. Research, research, research. Universal, cultural, personal.
And I would just add to that, coming from a research background, it amazed me how much free research was available, and very deep, very important research on culture, on education. So I would say on any project you're working on, it's, Google is your best friend. I mean, it's amazing what you can
No,
find.
Judy is your best friend. And then maybe Judy's best friend is Google, but...
Yeah. So, thank you. Thank you. So that led to, after doing the research, we were happy to find that it kind of led to, Spire framework really works well within and no surprise, they also came to Tal because they had read his writings and knew about Spire. Also the idea of, MVIs, which, minimum viable interactions, which is the like small things that you can do consistently that have a big impact, that Tal was alluding to that a few minutes ago. And then also that the 3 R's of change, which Tal was just talking about, really important because we wanted to create habits. We didn't want this to be a once and done kind of thing. That was like a really important guiding light for us.
Yeah, and I often say this, and I just said it even a few minutes ago. This is no rocket science. The ideas are pretty straightforward, pretty basic. The big challenge is the implementation thereof. Because as we know, small changes make a big difference if consistently applied. And that's what we were looking for.
And to try to make it as easy as possible to apply them. So that was great, but then we also saw there was an opportunity to take Spire to the next level, and that's where the title of this presentation came from, and where we kind of got excited to go a little deeper, which was to make it easier to understand and implement each of the elements. So if you just say to someone, oh, one of the key elements is spiritual, it's like, okay, what does that mean? It's not obvious, and it's not clear what you would do with spiritual, so we wanted to do that. And as part of that, we wanted to articulate what are some of the key components of what each element is. So if you're saying Spire, what are the most important components of Spire to make it easier and have a guidepost for people? And then also, Tal, of course, always talks about scientific support, and everything in HSA is all about the science, but we wanted to make it easier to find the science. So anything we talked about, we wanted to include the benefits of it as well as an immediate link to where you could learn the science behind it. And the last thing is we wanted to create sample activities for each component. So not just say, meditate, but okay, there's a million ways to meditate. Can you give more guidance? Or exercise, give more guidance on what you might want to do with those types of things. So that's for us what we got excited about, of where we could kind of take it to the next level for this project. And that led us to creating what we're calling the 15 sub-elements framework. Maybe you guys can help us come up with a better title for that. But it's for each of the 5 elements, we came up with 3 core sub-elements that are really important. And like the main elements that all interact with each, is it fine like this? Are you hearing? Okay, like the 5 Spire elements that are all interconnected, and you do them and you go into an upward spiral. Within each element also, there are these 3 sub-elements that together complement each other and lead to an upward spiral. So we have spirals within spirals. And this is what we came up with in terms of the framework. And you can see there's 3 categories for each of the 5 Spire elements. And I'm just going to quickly go from left to right. So spiritual, we know the importance of mindfulness. And meaning and purpose and strengths is just as important for students and kids as it is for adults. And it may be even more so for kids to know their strengths at an early age and to understand the importance of purpose and meaning. The second one is physical. And we talked about, of course, exercise, but also nutrition and recovery. Sleep is a huge issue with adults, but particularly with students. But even recovery within the day and within a week, to have times of recovery. Intellectual, the idea of a positive environment. So it can be like, I was so enjoying the music as we were waiting to get started. It can be the sound of the bell. It can be plants. It can be the color of the walls. Tal always talks about having inspiring quotes and inspiring things on your walls that remind you and encourage you. From a relational point of view, communication is number 1. Supportive relationships and kindness is probably one of the top things that are important. And then from the emotional side, that yin and yang we were talking about, you don't want to just focus on the positive or the negative. So managing difficult emotions, learning about that, as well as also equally, if not more important, cultivating pleasurable emotions, and then learning about reframing. So that's what we put up. We'll keep this one up when we finish the talk so people can look at it. And then what I just want to show you, this is sort of an example of we shared with our clients. So for example, the physical, so we did this for each of the 5 elements. So physical is exercise, nutrition, recovery. We had a brief description of it. We had a list of some of the key benefits. And then in what we gave them, we had links to the scientific support to it. I'll pause for a second for picture taking. And then we did a similar thing for each of the sub-elements. So we had a description. So this, for example, is the one for exercise. We did a brief description of it, the benefits, again with links to scientific support. And here we added sample activities. So here, just to fit on the page, I included 3, but we did more than 3. And here we included cross-training, regular movement breaks, because kids tend to sit way too much in school, and then choosing a physical activity. So being on a team or having a sport that you're doing regularly, dancing, exercising, that's really important. And then in closing, this is a summary of taking Spire to the next level. What it incorporated was explaining the benefits of each element and sub-element with the scientific support. It was breaking down each element into the sub-elements to make it easier to understand and to implement it. It was providing scientifically supported example activities to help bring it to life for inspiration, and then the schools could choose to implement it if they wanted to, but they didn't have to. They had the freedom to decide what they wanted to do. And I just wanted to point out that this project was focused on adults, but this framework works just as well, focused on students, works just as well with adults, and we should be using it for that as well. And it can be developed from scratch, or it can be incorporated into an existing curriculum or framework. So thank you very much, and talk to you.
Thank you. So how about we open up for a few questions?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yes.
Do you want to?
Please. Is there a... It's all right, you can.
Thank you. Right here? Good. Okay, thank you very much for this. This is amazing. Are we getting the slides?
Oh.
Okay.
Oh, yes, yes.
Okay, perfect. Amazing, because I was...
I'm sharing it, yeah.
Okay, thank you. And so this is wonderful. It's a lot of work that you got done in 6 months. I'm blown away by how much you have accomplished in 6 months. I'm sitting here praying to God that this is the Toronto District School Board we're talking about. I have a feeling it's not, but I wish it were. And I'm wondering, this is obviously for students, and it's going to be a godsend for many, for these kids and for the teachers and the parents and everybody. It's wonderful. Did you find in your research and in your discussions with the teachers and the staff, teachers were very severely impacted by the pandemic? Maybe more so than any other group of people I can think of. Absolutely. And so how did that come up, and was there any sort of, was there any request for your help specifically for teachers in the work environment, especially in the context of the pandemic and what they've just all been through?
Great question. We actually felt it was really important to do something for teachers and for them to learn as much as, but that they needed help, and we started with that. But the school district, our clients were like, we want to start by focusing on students. So we did start on that path, but we cut it back to focus on students. But we totally 100% agree. From the research I did, huge need and huge importance.
Hi. Hi, I'm Antonio, my boss. Have you considered the development of character within the children? I think it's so important to develop their character in life.
Their what?
Character.
Oh, character, yes. Well, the Spire framework is also about developing character. If you do these Spire elements, it's about developing character, so they're very interconnected. And yes, absolutely, developing character is so important. And the school district, they definitely, when they talked to us about the project, they were talking about that. We want to develop students who have character, who have these characteristics. That was very important to them.
Why in the relational you don't include self-esteem?
Well, I mean, basically, the answer was we could only pick 3, so we were trying to pick 3 core ones, but go ahead.
And also, as you know, self-esteem is very much on my agenda, whether it's dealing with schools or organizations. However, many of the things that we talk about here indirectly lead to self-esteem. So we know, for example, the connection between physical toughness and mental toughness. So again, mind, body are connected. You exercise more regularly, your self-esteem you'll become more resilient. We also know how important relationships and kindness in particular are for self-esteem. So many of these elements, actually I would say most of these elements, contribute to self-esteem indirectly. It's a little bit similar to our discussion at the very beginning about pursuing happiness indirectly.
Yeah.
Hi, here, this side, to your left.
Oh.
Here.
All our questions are over there. Yes. Hi.
Thank you. First of all, congratulations, Ben, Judy. Actually, I think this is an awesome research you made. But I was wondering about which are your recommendations for the implementation. I work for K-9 and 12 grades in ethics and civics, but all I want to do is to help them become happier and responsible and kindness. So if you have any recommendation or if there is any paper available, I can check to help my school implement all of this model that I'm amazed and I love. Congratulations again.
Thank you.
Thanks for
so
sharing.
I think we could share some of the secondary research for sure. Yeah, so I'll talk with Yuval or Tal and we'll figure out to put some of the resources that I've as I said, I found some amazing ones I would love to share with everybody. Yeah.
Hi, I'm Jao Tekat.
Sorry.
Nice to meet you. This is not a question. Actually, this is just, I want to thanks a lot for all the work you're making for the future of this humanity with all childs and for all the impact it will make all around if we can implement this with all our children because they are the future actually. So thank you so much for all you're doing.
Okay, Judy, nice work. I'm so
Oh, thank you.
I have a question. I don't know, as psychologists, how much parents are as parents of the failure they got.
Yeah.
They even offer all their own failures to appreciate their child. When you look, I started working for this kind of, can this have any factor in the parents? See yourself as human and be able to stay with something.
Yeah, I think there's a huge pressure on parents and on students to have good grades, and that's one of the biggest challenges. And when I was saying how they didn't want it to be too prescriptive, it was partly because they have so many things they have to do, the school systems, and there's so much pressure to have good grades and get those kids into good colleges that it's really a challenge to incorporate it. And that's why, to the extent we can make it easy to do it and make it integrated into things they're already doing, that's really important. Did you want to add anything, Tom?
You're spot on in terms of what is the parents' approach to raising children, and Sunia Luthar from Columbia University, originally from India, now teaching at Columbia, talks about many similar symptoms among the well-to-do, the wealthy children, and the at-risk population. And the reason she finds a lot of those similarities is because very often for children from well-to-do family, they don't fail enough, specifically because their parents fix things for them. Why? Because they can. They don't realize how important it is for their children to fail, to struggle. Remember the analogy I always give, if you go to a gym and all the weights are on 0, you're not going to get stronger. You need resistance. Children need resistance. They need to struggle. Maria Montessori said, don't do for the child what the child can do for him or herself. So this is one of the messages that we talk about under the intellectual under the intellectual well-being sub-elements.
Okay, here. My name is Winnie. Yes, before pandemic, I live in mainland China. I used to serve a Chinese educational non-profit organization. I noticed that sometimes we need time to bring change. So one question is, how long will this program last for one school or one school board? May you sign a contract with them? Because, for example, in China, our organization will sign a contract with the school for maybe 3 years. They will support this program. So that is question, how long will this? And also another question, do you have the experience in some developing country for this program? What is the main challenge for you to promote this program in developing country or development country? So that is 2 questions.
Well, I'm going to let you answer, but I just want to make one point, is that one of the research, which I'll share, that was eye-opening for me, is that when you start, like they showed a school, and what happened was the teachers were like struggling in the beginning because they were trying to figure out how it works, and it took a good 6 months before they were able to really incorporate it and accept it. And so their satisfaction, it was like this kind of curve. It went way down, and then it came back up. So that's sort of the idea of giving it time to work. It's not going to happen immediately. And it's even similar to the neural pathways. It takes a while to create a habit. And I'll let you answer.
Yeah. So because we're working with a school district, the school district is essentially going to be with these schools indefinitely. So they're not with them for 1 year or 3 years. The school district is there indefinitely, which is an advantage of going through that. But if you work within an individual school, and this is what we're also doing through our Happier Schools program, we're talking about 3 years minimum. Yes, that's our minimum. And your second question? Yeah. So I think there are many more similarities than differences. However, one of the differences, and we're working with a school district that has very poor schools and very wealthy schools. And one of the differences, as Judy pointed out, was for the wealthy. One of the challenges for the wealthy schools is that most of the kids are raised by nannies. The challenge for the poorer region is that the parents don't always have time to be with, so similar, at risk, wealthy, similar, but different concerns. I would think there are more. It would be quite similar, other obviously than the financial issue.
I mean, I think it's challenging for all students to incorporate this, because I think particularly with like in the US, some of like the programs, like KIP programs and some of those programs, they're very oriented towards the education and the academic part, and they don't have enough time to give to the physical part and some of the other things because they're so focused on that. Like I have a friend who works at a charter school, and it drives her crazy. She has so many rules. They can never have any fun with the kids. They cut recess. They've cut so many things because their main goal is to get the academics up. So I think that's one of the challenges with some of the poorer schools.
Yeah, and I'm Yeah. No, look, money is an issue. However, these are not expensive interventions. These are very straightforward interventions that you can do with what you already have. So it's not like you need a lot of money for them to start breathing before every class, or for them to introduce, more movement, or for them to learn a story about giving themselves the permission to be human. These things are very accessible. Again, at every level. Now, having said that, there is no question that we will face new challenges as we go along. But, you learn by doing. Good, thank you. One final question, unfortunately. Sorry.
Hello?
Okay.
And in these days and era, we do have to deal with the addiction to social media and how the isolation is creating within everybody, not just kids, but adults as well. How does the program approaches this singular program, motivating the children to do something else, limiting the hours? Because I believe we do need to address this problem.
Yeah,
Thank you.
and definitely that's something we were very aware of, and that's where meditation and mindfulness was important, because people get so distracted, so that was an important one. We incorporated things like, hopefully don't even let kids bring their cell phone to school at all. If not, have places where cell phones aren't allowed. We in this project, we really couldn't control what the parents were doing, but to try to educate the parents on that as well in terms of setting limits. So yes, very aware of it, the school's very aware of it, and we were trying, as Tal said, simple things to help them focus. And that's where also the deep learning comes in. It's not just about superficial learning, you want to go deep into something.
And when we say simple things, what I've talked about before is, even if you go to bed and your smartphone is not right next to you, but is in another room, that in and of itself can make a difference. Because when you wake up in the morning, the first thing you'll look at or think about is either taking deep breaths or looking at someone next to you, or thinking about what you want to do throughout the day rather than checking the news. So the small changes that we implement in the school and then educating them about what we hope they'll do at home, that's obviously a very important part of the program. Oh, there are 4 levels? Yeah, we have...
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
I am so inspired and excited. I love the framework. So I'm interested in the next 6 months. What does that look like? It sounds like the school district is driving a lot of the implementation plan. It sounds like they want to integrate the framework into the curriculum first, and I know there's talk of training teachers later.
Right.
But what has the school district said that they need as support? And also, that's for that school district. Is there talk of proposing this framework to other school districts? What does HSA need in terms of skill set to drive this forward in the next 6 months?
Oh, great questions. So basically, the contract we have is for 6 months, and it's almost ending. And our deliverable is to give them the framework with the activities, with that type of thing, and then potentially there might be a second. But the goal is that we are able to give them something that they can now take and implement in their schools. So they've got the key things that they need to move forward.
Just as the approach that I mentioned earlier of Montessori, don't do for a child what he or she can do for themselves, this is also our approach when we work with a school district. We want to give them what they cannot do or don't know how to do themselves, but ideally we want to empower them to do as much as possible. So they're not dependent on us. And throughout the we work very closely with them. We have regular meetings, and during those meetings, we're also thinking of educating them. We're learning from them because they know their district a lot better, but we're also educating them so that they can do it themselves. This is where we want to get. We don't want to be there for 20 years. We want to be there for as much as necessary and as little as possible. Judy, if you can say just a few words.
So I just want to end, something that we didn't put in here, but we talked to them about, is that there were kind of stages to how you implement this, and the first is sort of you're educating the schools about it, then they start implementing it at a lower level to get started. We don't want them to be overwhelmed, and then you go deeper, and again you pick the things you want to do, and you take it at the pace you can take it. So we didn't want it to be so overwhelming that people will just say, too much, I can't do it. But then the final stage that we are aimed for is that they pay it forward. And the goal is that the schools have incorporated that into their culture. And then it starts reaching out to the parents, it starts reaching out to the community, the teachers are doing it. So that idea of paying it forward is where and then it'll impact the whole culture, is the ultimate goal.
Thank you very much, Judy.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, Judy. And I want to, before I call on Yuval, I just, on a personal level, to talk about this. So I mentioned this in the webinar that some of you I know were there on Thursday. I just spoke at an event in Mexico City. And one of the speakers there was one of the fathers of the strength-based movement, Marcus Buckingham. And Marcus Buckingham wrote the book, Now Discover Your Strengths, which is an international bestseller, really changed the way people think about education, about work. And one of the things that he talks about there, which time and again I thought about during that project with Judy and Ashley, one of the things that he talks about is how we're not looking for well-rounded individuals. We're not looking in the workplace or in schools for that matter for well-rounded people who are good at everything. He said, in fact, what you're looking for are people with sharp edges. So do you understand the metaphor that he's talking about? You're not looking for someone who's good at everything, because no one is good at everything. At least no one is very good at everything. But there are many people, in fact, probably 8 billion of them, who are extremely good at one or two things. And he says when you create work teams, and here he's talking about the workplace of the present and certainly the future, when you create work teams, the effective ones are not going to include well-rounded individuals. They're going to include very sharp-edged individuals, or perhaps very good at one thing and not so good at other things. And together, they make for a well-rounded team. So what you're looking for are not well-rounded individuals. What you're looking for are well-rounded teams. And when the school district approached me with that project, I very quickly realized that this is way, way above my abilities, what they're looking for. And I started thinking, how can I build a team that has the capabilities that this project demands? And that's when I thought about Judy, that's when I thought about Ashley. And that is why together we were able to create what we created, where each of us brought their strength, whether it was the exceptional, really outstanding research abilities that Judy brought to the team beyond other things, whether it's the exceptional attention to details and writing abilities that Ashley brought to the scene beyond other things. So each of us brought different things, and together it is a well-rounded team. And I'm bringing this up, not just to talk about this project, which of course is very meaningful and important for me, but to talk about your projects, which are very important and meaningful to me and to you. When you think about bringing about change, whether it's in the school, in your neighborhood, whether it's in an organization that you're working with, whether it's working with your community or country, or thinking about something that will reverberate throughout the world, think about not being able to do everything yourself. Think about what your strengths are and how can you collaborate with people who help you become a well-rounded, not individual, a well-rounded team. You don't need to do it all. You don't need to know it all. No one can, just unrealistic. But you can create a team that has it all, or at least enough to bring about lasting change. And this is why these get-togethers are so important. This is why the interactions we have during the meals on the beach are so important, because we learn about each other. And we see, oh, no, this person can really help me. Maybe together we can do something. Because that is the power of teams, of synergy, of amplifying what we're capable of as individuals. And this is what our community is all about. So, thank you, Judy. Thank you, Ashley. And thank you all for being part of this community. And speaking of teams, and speaking of complementary strength, my dear partner, Yuval Kutz, can you please join us here?
Now it's not going to be heavy.
So,
Getting instructions from, how did he call you, master tutor? No, I just came here because we get a lot of questions about the things that we do in HSA, the master's program, the happier school program, the after school program, the coaching course, whoever knows that we're about to. So I said it's an opportunity that we'll talk about it in front of everyone and we'll answer all of the questions about that. So first I'll start with explaining a few things and trying to answer some of the questions that I already received, and then you can ask your questions. We'll start with the MA. The master's degree was launched in March in Miami. The first cohort starts October 24, that's 2 days from now. 2 days. Wow.
2 days. Oh, wow.
No? Yes, 2 days. And still looking for a professor to teach that. So that's the first cohort of the MA. The MA is comprised of 8 courses. 2 of the courses are Introduction to Happiness Studies and Facilitating Happiness, the 2 courses that you know that creates the certificate in happiness studies. So whoever took the certificate retroactively, even if he took the certificate in May 2018, which was the first cohort, it is counted for the MA in a way that he will not need to pay again. The price for the MA will be reduced by the amount he paid for the certificate. While going through those courses throughout the MA, he will not need to watch again all of the lectures, but he will have papers to submit, exercises and papers that he will need to submit in order to be graded. It will be way easier for you, of course, but still some work needs to be done in order to get accredited. This is the difference between a certificate program, which is a non-accredited program, to a master's degree, which is fully accredited. The accreditation of the MA that we got, and we insisted on that, and this is part of why it took us 3 years to create it, is the highest accreditation available in the United States. The same like the most prestigious universities out there. Maybe you're familiar with one of
Like
them.
Princeton, University of Pennsylvania, Rutgers, all the top universities in the US have the same accreditation as the university we're working with.
So the certificate counts for 2 courses within the MA. The MA is 8 courses, so you have extra 6 courses to enroll and go through. The entire MA is 18-month long. It is semester by semester, the same like academic year, the same like any academic structure of any degree that you're familiar with. The requirements for the MA are a BA in any subject. For US citizens, it is a BA. It's domestic students, and for students outside of the US, it's the BA in any subject, but there is a little bit of more, I would say there is a little more bureaucracy around getting into and accepting into this. I know, some of you are going through that, I know. So a little bit more bureaucracy. One of the things is there is a company in Canada that is doing the reviews of your BA from a different country. It's called WES. Once you go through the application program, then at some point of time you'll be asked and directed to the WES, where you submit your BA there, they make the check, and they send it to the university for approval. It is merely bureaucracy. This is not another phase that you need to be. If you have a BA, accredited BA anywhere in any subject, it's sufficient. Just needs to be checked. Second thing for foreigners is language. It is an accredited US degree, hence you need to speak proper English, or there is a level of English which is the minimum level for you to be accepted. How do we check that? TOEFL exam. TOEFL exam is done online. There are other companies. I'm using TOEFL as an example. There's 3 or 4 options you can choose. It's an exam that you're doing online from your home. Again, you'll be directed there through the application process. You'll get all the emails and links and everything that you need in order to understand where do I and how do I. It's all there. The TOEFL exam you do online, it's about an hour and a half, 4 hours because you had technical difficulties. I did it myself. I'm starting the MA in March. We'll talk. We'll take it later and we'll check. But you do need to take a TOEFL exam, and you need to reach a score of 8 out of 12, I think, is the. So it's not a very. It does not require to be super proficient in English, but you do need to manage yourself around. So this is about the MA. The first cohort is in 2 days, and we can now announce that the second cohort is March 6th. So just 5 months from now, less than 5 months from now, is another is the next MA cohort. So whoever's interested, I would suggest, especially if you're not a US citizen, I would strongly suggest start the application now because it takes time. And there's a lot of people. We have 100 people joining the first cohort, and we have already almost 20 people joining March cohort because they did not finish in time their application for October. So if you want to finish your application for March, start it now, go through it easily, and don't be stressed at the end. How do you say that word in English? Procrastination. Thank you. Hard for me to pronounce. So maybe my TOEFL, I don't know. So this is about the MA. We are not sure yet how many cohorts ahead will be each year. We can guess now, and don't hold me for that there will be 2 cohorts a year, probably March and October. June, August, October. Not sure yet. It's still an open question. But the next one is March 6th. Somewhere along. The first course in the MA, that's another question that I got here, is a foundation course. It's a more of an orientation course in nature. It's quite easy. The first 2 months are not, you dive in, the first 2 months to the MA is quite easy. It's not very time consuming, the first 2 months. After those 2 months, it gets more intense. But the first 2 months are quite easy. So if you're thinking, I don't have time now, I will have time in a few months. So if you're calculating your time, so take into consideration the first 2 months are not so bad. And then in May, June, after March, in May, June, you will be more the time effort will be bigger.
And if I can add to that, in terms of the time investment, a good rule of thumb to think about, it's probably 10 to 20 hours a week of investment. Between 10 to 20 hours a week. So probably your second semester will be closer to 20. You're taking 2 courses, you're still learning the ropes to some extent.
And for the students of the certificate, which we are talking to here, it's easier.
Easier.
It will take less.
No question.
It will take less. I would say that the average is more like 10 to 15.
Yes.
So that is about the MAS. תעזור לי, אני לא שומע. Okay.
The degree is 100% online. There will be retreats where we will have the opportunity to meet in person, but the official degree, 100% online.
And they will join the same community. So the retreats will be, of course, for students of the certificate and students of the MA together. With the certificate, we have thousands of people taking it for more than 70 countries. It's literally 70 countries. It's a lot of work from our side, working in crazy hours, answering. So when you get an email from Lital, and it's convenient for you in the time zone, be sure that she answered in the middle of the night. When you get an email from Lital in the middle of the night, then it was convenient for her. And I wanted to say, I will take this opportunity to say something else also. I didn't speak enough about Lital. Lital joined us about 10 months ago, and she's in charge. Woo! She's in charge of the HSA club on behalf of HSA. And she's in charge of all of the student activities and requests, starting from technical requests and ending in any kind of future development request. So use her a lot. When Lital came to you, I hope you all saw Lital dancing yesterday. If you didn't, Udi will send you a video. When Lital came to the job interview 10 months ago, I had a list of items that I'm looking for in the person, and none of the items in the list were there. It's like my list was so bad. It's like I prepared the wrong list. After 60 seconds, I saw the spark in her eyes, and in 60 seconds I realized that it's the same spark I see here in all of your eyes. So I think I made my best decision ever. Thank you. That's the MA and Lital. Next subject. The Happier School Program / After School Program. I will explain the connection between them, which is which and how and why. The Happier School Program is a program designed for schools, public and private schools. Tal just spoke about a project that is correlates, I would say, with what I'm talking about now. The Happier School Program was designed for schools. Basically, what we do is we educate the teachers on happiness, because they are the teachers not necessarily gone through the certificate or got any education on happiness. So we do that with them quite shortly, not like a full year like you're going. And we educate the teachers on how to deliver happiness to children and how to create more lesson plans to deliver in class. We give the teachers a curriculum. We give them lesson plans for each grade level. It's starting from 1st grade to 12th grade. And we give them lesson plans, and we give them great works to build lesson plans around them. And there's a whole system around it. It is also fully online with our support to the teachers until they are ready to walk in class and deliver the lectures that they get from us, or the ones that they will create by themselves. That's the Happier School Program. The end, the party that is taking that program on the other side is a school. The other program that we've created was designed specifically for you. This is the after-school program. The after-school program is like, it's only for graduates of HSA. It is a complete business in a box, meaning like a child in the afternoon takes karate lessons or piano lessons or tennis lessons or whatever, he can take happiness lessons. The teachers are you, the graduates of the certificate. The graduate of certificate can join this program, Lital will help, and deliver such a class in the afternoon for children. What he will get from us is the full business aspects. He will get, of course, his own page and marketing page. You will appear on our page as one of the faculty of the Happier School Program. You'll have your own happinessstudies.academy/your-name Happier School Program, where in that page there will be all the information about the program and about yourselves. And even we took care of the billing, and everything is there. You will need to market it within your community, either by whatever means. You can do those lessons online, you can do those lessons in person. It's up to you, and it's your choice. So we designed this as a complete business in a box. If you want to have a business in happiness, you want to work with children, you have a desire to work with children on happiness in the afternoon, this is the program for you. That's the after school and the Happier School, and we know what is the difference. Happier School is for schools, and we educate teachers. The after school is for graduates. You are already educated teachers in happiness, and you just need the material. You get all the materials, you get all the lesson plans, you get everything from us. And with that, you market it within your community, you have your children, and you teach them. That's the after school. Another program that we never spoke about, and it's the first time I'm going to speak about it publicly, is a coaching course. The coaching course is not an open course for the public. The coaching course, again, was designed only for the graduates of the Certificate in Happiness Studies. As you know, you get your certificate when you finish. It is a certified happiness trainer. To be a certified coach, and we're going through, and we'll take that, of course, through ICF as well, like we took the certificate through ICF, International Coaching Federation. This course is, of course, shorter. It is like,
it's complementary or supplementary?
Supplementary. My TOEFL again. So, I got 11. By the way, I got 11 out of 12.
So we'll let
So
you in. You can
that
get
word
into
was
it.
in the one that I was missing in my score. This is a complementary course that is on top of the certificate for graduate to become a certified happiness coach. It is about 3 months long. We will launch it next week. It will be available on our website to enroll and take the course. We will not market it at all. It's for you if you know about it and you want it, because I had a few questions from people who really want it, so it will be open for you and you can take it. We will not market it, we will not push it yet to the entire community, because as you know, this is the part of worldwide community. Maybe mentioning that, I should mention one more about the community. You know, we have a large community, you see it in the Zoom, from China. Unfortunately, in China, there are still heavy restrictions regarding COVID. It's very difficult for the Chinese students to leave the country, come for such retreats, and join this community in person and go back. We all hope that soon those restrictions will be lifted and they will be able to join us. And you will see that the community is worldwide and very diverse. דיברתי על blackout? על coaching, sorry. Blackout. Master tutor, coaching. So, the coaching course is about 3 months long. It is a lot of self-work. It is very applied, because you know you have a lot of the theory already from the certificate. You will get some theory there as well, but it's a lot of applied techniques, a lot of coaching sessions and reviews, and so this is how it's constructed. You will find all the details on our webpage. You want to add to that?
And I'll say something about, look, when you graduate with the HSA certificate program, you have more than enough material, abilities, content, know-how to become a coach. The reason why we put together the coaching program is because of conversations that we had with some of you, one of them being Tammy Muller, who told us, you know, we want a little bit of help to translate the material and make it more practical and accessible when we become coaches. So we put it together. But again, if you want to become a coach, you have more than enough material content to do it with the HSA program. If you want something else, there is additional material, there is additional practice, as you've all pointed out, then by all means, we stand behind it. We like the course. Is it essential if you want to coach? Absolutely not. Will it help? Possibly. Probably, actually.
Next topic. The next retreat is in Lake Como, Italy, 21 to 23 March. 24 is the World Happiness Summit. Some of you know the World Happiness Summit is happening for 5 or 6 years now. It was always in Miami, Florida. This year is the first time that it's the same conference. It's happening, same organizers, same conference. There is no something in the background. Why did it change? And I got some questions about it. And they changed personnel. They sold it. They bought it. Nothing. It's the same people. It's the same organization. It's the same conference. New professors for sure, new lectures and new material. But it is happening in Lake Como, Italy. This is what they decided. And as we did last time, we did our get-together I would say not it wasn't even a retreat because what's happening here is mind-blowing. We did that in March in Miami, next year in March in Lake Como. The World Happiness Summit is 24 to 26 March. We are 21 to 23 March, to make it convenient and easy for people to travel from far and make sense that they travel from far, also from Venezuela, and to travel from far and arrive for a few days, not just for 2 nights, but for 5 or 6 nights. It will be in the same idea that we have here, with the help of our amazing, and this is what I'm getting at, amazing team of volunteers. And again, I will not say names, I will not fall for that. Even if Anna insists, I don't know. No, I will not say name. Nah. About? No. Mentoring. Ah, the mentoring. Okay, thanks. I'll add that.
Could you talk to the WASO people and extend the discount? Because the discount to go to the WASO finished 19th of October. So maybe put the discount this week for the people that decide to go to Egypt.
Yes, so what you're asking, Patricia, is whether we can speak to OHASU about extending the discount? Yeah, we will get a special code, Lital, right? From
we will have our own. Yeah, we will have a HSA students discount. I'm not sure what we will be able to negotiate with them.
There are 2 discounts. One for the WASO, for the people that make the reservation till 19th, and another for happiness.
Yes, it's different. It will not be. It's separated.
Yes, it's till 19th.
There was like a discount for the WASP people that went to March.
We don't know. We'll have to speak to Karen Guggenheim. Yeah.
The chair is here. Mentoring. This year, we launched a mentoring program. It is a program that is happening and open to our graduates and students. The idea behind it is to help new students joining the program, new cohorts, follow through the material, understand, get more connected to the community, get more connected to the contents. So any of you graduates who want to be a mentor, Lital is your address again, and she will find a group for you of new students joining the program to mentor. This is an amazing experience. Also students, there's students here as well that are not graduated yet. If you're not new student and you want a mentor, like, where is she? No, I don't see her here. No, I was looking for Yolanda. If you want a mentor, again, send an email to Lital. She is at support@happinessstudies.academy or Lital at happinessstudies.academy, and she will help you find a mentor or a group of mentees. I see my TOEFL, mentees. That is the mentorship program. Anna, anything else? No? Okay. Last, I need your help. We are always working on getting more students into the program, into the MA, into the happier school, into the after school. We use social media. This is how we post ourselves out there. This is how probably you found us, or through friends who already took the program, but they found us in social media. Be involved. Like on Instagram, likes on shares on Instagram and Facebook. Those are the main channels that we use, Facebook and share. We need the community strength in order to share those with your community. There is a reviews page on Facebook. That will be amazing if any of you will enter the reviews page on Facebook and write something about HSA and your experience. Say only the truth, only good things, only the truth. Only the truth about the good things. So whatever you want, but we do need your help to share, to promote, to like, to write reviews. All the time, I'm reluctant to say all the thanks that I have in my mind to this team. I'm just saying that because when you do that, there's a smell of end. When you say thank you, then we're saying it's adjusting to the goodbye, and I don't want to be there yet. We have we're just halfway through, so I'll save that for later. Thank you.
Okay, so thank you, Yuval. Thank you. We are going to move on. There are more questions, and we'll find a time for Q&A later this afternoon, sometime dedicated to it, because I saw there are many more questions. But I will end now. I have 1 more minute, so why don't you sit comfortably in your place. And let's draw on that gift that we have from nature, evolution, God, or wherever, that breath. And just turn your attention to the air coming in through your nostrils, all the way down to your belly, and then leaving your body once again through your nostril. Slow, gentle, quiet inhalation, followed by slow, gentle, quiet exhalation. With every exhalation, as you trigger the parasympathetic system, just let go of any tension and relax. With your next exhalation, open your eyes. Thank you and see you soon.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Tal. So, okay. Now we are going to move to our breakout groups with different